Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Maddie from the UK, and she has been gracious enough to volunteer to share her story with my audience. So welcome, Maddie, and if you would, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of a story as to what you've been through.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thank you so much can I just say firstly, thank you so much for having me on here. I
Mhm.
feel very privileged to be able to speak to you today. I know that when I was really in the thick of it, at my worst, it was just so fantastic to have people speak about what they'd been through and to have that as a reference when I was really, you know, in the worst
Mhm.
time. So I felt like it was very important for me to come and talk to people who are going through similar things. Hugely important to talk about this stuff. Um, so I was thinking about how to kind of approach this today, but I guess it's really important for me to kind of talk to you about certain things when they happened,
Mhm.
especially in childhood and to where I am now, because I feel like it gives a really good picture of to
Sure.
how I became so unwell.
Okay.
So the start is quite heavy, but it ends very happy.
Okay.
So I'd like to kind of start, talking about my childhood first. I had a very happy childhood, you know. I cannot complain. My parents were wonderful. Really special childhood and upbringing. Up until I was about 7 years old. And unfortunately, I had quite a traumatic experience when I was about seven, which kind of shaped kind of the rest of my life up until this point. I think it was it was just it kind of ruined my, what's the word, innocence
Mhm.
as a child. I was
Sure.
I was quite creative in nature and some called me shy. I was quite reserved and it kind of just made me even more that
Sure.
way. Um, and and it kind of led on to quite a big police investigation. So I was involved in about 3 months worth of in I don't want to call it interrogation, but actually as a child it felt that way
Mhm.
with these investigators who were kind of dressed up as counselors. And but I was part of this big police investigation, and that went on for a long time, involving my family. So it was quite a big, exposing thing to be dealing with at such a young age.
Wow.
So after that, I did become quite reserved and into myself. But I went to school and I loved learning and I loved art and all that sort of thing. Um, but I was bullied at school. I was kind of targeted at school. I think I just had something written on my head that was a bit like a bit of a target.
Right.
Um, and then when I was 16, I kind of got into a relationship with someone who's a little bit older than me. And it was my first relationship, and it was very controlling and abusive. And just in those formative years, it was incredibly damaging for me. Um, and I think that when I think about it, I think that is when I started having symptoms
Okay.
because, and I didn't realize it, but I felt like things were just quite distant and a bit foggy, and I was probably dissociating quite a lot. Um, but I didn't really kind of understand at the time maybe what that
Sure.
was.
Okay.
So, and then when I was in my early 20s, that's when I was diagnosed with POTS.
Okay.
That was my first diagnosis of um, having, you know, when I realized there was something not quite right with me. I was living in London at the time and I was working a really busy job. I was in the film industry and we were creating huge sets for film sets, and it was long hours and very high stress situations.
Mhm.
And I was working with my uncle at the time, who was completely mad. We had a good time, but it was very full on and lots of late nights. And I was really working myself into the ground. And that's when I started to feel really weird, you know,
Okay.
like super dizzy, very faint. I started to realize that I couldn't digest food properly, you know, really, you know, that feeling of it just sitting there and like bloating. And just feeling really out of sorts. And I think my family started to realize and become quite concerned for me because I was not myself. Um,
Can I ask what type of symptoms you were experiencing in your teenage years? You said you started experiencing some things. You didn't connect the dots to stress or life, but you just,
yeah,
well, how are you
I
feeling
was
unwell then?
extremely fatigued,
Okay.
extremely fatigued. Like, you know, I could lie in my bed for days if my mum let me. You
Gotcha.
know?
Okay.
So I
Yeah, I was
think,
just curious to fill in that.
yeah, yeah, and feeling sick and quite anxious. I think I was quite anxious as a teenager. Um, but also to bear in mind that I was super adventurous. Like I would travel the world. I was very, you know, I had a lot of I was very brave and did all these crazy things, you know.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
I wasn't like stuck at home or anything like that at that stage, you know.
Okay.
In my 20s, I really went for it, traveling the world and things.
Cool.
Um, so basically, I went to a big London hospital to get diagnosed. You know, I had the tilt table test and
Sure.
all of that stuff. And to be honest, I was just absolutely, I was so grateful that someone was taking me seriously. You know, that I
Mhm.
felt completely gaslit by the whole medical system, really. You know, up until that point.
Yeah.
Uh, I think a lot of doctors, and I saw a lot of, and I don't mean this, but a lot of male doctors who just looked at me and going, emotional teenage girl, you know, well, like in her early 20s, hormonal, you know, I got put on the pill and I got put on, you know, I think they tried to prescribe me sertraline, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. And to be honest, they just made me feel horrible. They made me feel really awful. So I kept persisting. And they finally came to the conclusion that it might be this thing called POTS.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyone with POTS will know that it comes with a whole host of pretty ugly sensations that make your life really difficult to live.
And can
Mm.
you share with me your experience with POTS, what those sensations were? Because
Yeah.
they're different for different types of people. And so, what did you experience symptom wise?
So I had constipation, bloating, IBS symptoms. Every time I stood up, I would pass out.
Literally out cold?
Out cold.
Okay.
It wasn't every single time I stood up, but there was a real period of time where I just found it incredibly hard to get about,
Okay.
and even just sitting.
Was there any injuries from falling over and passing out? Or
There
did
was
you sense
one.
it coming and you would get down on the ground?
Um, I would always preempt it, I think, but
Okay. So you
which
learned to
probably made,
preempt it.
yeah. But there was one time I passed out and hit my head on the bath quite badly, and I had a black eye for a long time. Um,
Okay. Because that's obviously a concern of people who get that lightheaded, dizzy, fainting type of feeling.
yeah,
And I've dealt with some other people who have had injuries from passing out. So wanted to
yeah,
get your flavor of that and see what you experienced.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, and usually I got very good at when I was experiencing the symptom to be able to get as low. to the ground as possible and then try and, you know, land well. Um, I also I would get kind of God, it was quite a long time ago now, so it's hard to remember every symptom, but the nausea was horrendous. That was awful. Um, and I just remember not being able to stomach food well, very shaky. Um, and I actually, at that time, saw a homeopath who prescribed me some things. And now I know what I know now. I can understand why it helped so much because she was giving me a remedy, and I believed that that was going to have a good effect on my health. And I saw big progress with my symptoms through homeopathy and controlling my diet and doing a bit of exercise.
Mhm.
And that gave me some focus, and I believed it was working. Um, but I think when I think back at it, I think I was still, whenever I had moments of stress, it would get so much worse and it never really went away.
And
Uh,
that's a clue, the
yeah,
fact that it would get worse with stress.
absolutely. Yeah, that was a good indicator.
Okay.
So I kind of lived with this. I kind of got better to an extent that I kind of got better to the point where I was going out, seeing friends. I was able to kind of, go on holidays and I'd go out dancing. I was actually able to do that at points in my life.
Hmm.
So, and which I find interesting as well, because it
Yeah.
came back with a vengeance later. Um, you know,
So after
so
the homeopathy, you kind of got back into a little bit more of a normal life,
yeah,
but then you had a wave of it come back. Okay.
definitely. Yeah, because I went traveling and did all that kind of stuff. And I kind of treated it as a bit of a distant memory, but it was always still a little bit there in the background, but I kind of learnt not to get obsessed with it. But I still held on to that label of it
Hmm.
of POTS.
Yeah.
And I think when I was younger, I didn't have a great sense of self. I wasn't very good at knowing who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be. I didn't have a huge amount of direction or wasn't so sure of who I wanted to show up as in the world. And I think it was weird that when I got that diagnosis, for a bit, I knew who I was and like I could be this
I could be
person.
this sick person. Great.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to mention that I'm a middle child, chronic middle child syndrome,
Okay.
from a big, loud family, and it got me quite a bit of attention.
Mhm.
I think that has to be mentioned that
Yeah,
I
I
was
would encourage you and anybody listening not to take ownership of that, that it was intentional,
no,
but
yeah,
just that the attention we get actually feels validating and supportive. And, for some people, I've actually had somebody tell me, they said, until I got sick, nobody seemed to care. And this is the only time I got cared for.
yeah,
And so I don't want anybody to feel like they own this or it's their fault or it was attention seeking. But there is the aspect that, oh my goodness, I'm being loved, I'm cared for, which didn't happen previously. So no
yeah,
judgment about that, just an acknowledgement that that can happen.
yeah. It was totally subconscious. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything that I was doing deliberately. But I got a lot of support throughout that time.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit. And when I was traveling, I was living in New York for about 3 months, and I had quite a traumatic experience there involving a man, and that affected me for a long time. And I came home after that. Um, and I believe that sort of it was a Kickstarter into things kind of ramping up again,
Right.
um, in terms of symptoms.
Okay.
Um, And then after that, I had a pregnancy trauma that I had to, had to deal with. It felt very much on my own. Um, and that that made me feel very unsafe. I think the things that happened prior to this had already kind of solidified that, that for me it felt the world wasn't safe. I felt unsafe in my in this experience. Um, but that was a bit of a pivotal moment for me. And I came home and I was incredibly directionless after that. And then around the same time, my parents decided to separate for a bit. There was a lot of stuff going on with their marriage, and I was living at home, and it was a lot to be around.
Chaos.
And then after that, uh, there was sort of um, one thing came after another. I lost my uncle, um, my auntie, and my granddad in the space of like 18 months. It was
Right.
really a big deal. That's all on my dad's side of the family. And then shortly after that, my dad was admitted to hospital after he contracted COVID. Um, and he was put into an induced coma for, I think it was about 6 weeks or something like that. But because it was lockdown, we couldn't go into the hospital and be there for him. It was a very intense time for us. We had no ways of communicating with him or knowing if he was okay. The only thing was relying on them answering the phones. And I think that this instilled a huge sense of anxiety around health in particular. It was a big deal for me after the loss of a lot of my family members. This on top was like, whoa, wow, I feel so unsafe, you know, this could happen to me. Uh, and um, and at the same time, my mum sort of had a quite a long depressive episode. So me and my sister were kind of taking the reins on looking after my dad. Um, so my foundations were completely rocked, and I didn't feel like I had any stability at that time. Um,
Okay.
I think that, yeah, that instilled a great deal of fear into me at that time.
And did the symptoms increase during that whole fearful time? And
So at that particular time, I remember feeling I was in a chronic state of fight or flight, like absolutely, this is survival. I was so you know, on the whole time. I wasn't sleeping.
right.
I was finding it hard to eat. Chronic state of anxiety. Um, and to be honest, I think I was so focused on my dad, I wasn't really paying attention to
Hmm.
what was going on in my body until afterwards.
Sure.
That's when things really started to kick in. When I knew my dad was home, safe, that's when my health completely started to go downhill. Um, and I ended up in quite an abusive relationship with someone who was very emotionally abusive. And he was an addict, so he was addicted to cocaine and alcohol and would lie to me frequently and gaslight me. So this caused a huge confusion in in my brain,
Sure.
and um, and further led me to uh, just distrust the world, distrust everyone. Um, I didn't feel like I had anywhere safe to go. Um, And it was within this relationship that my symptoms were now unbearable, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
There
when
were
you say unbearable, was that like you couldn't function too well?
um yes. So if I tell you when I got sick, when this the bit we're talking about now, when I got sick, was in the February of 2024. That's when I noticed the worst of it. So I remember sitting on the sofa. Um, this happened most nights, and I remember saying to my partner at the time, I feel, I just feel so unsafe. I don't feel safe. And I just kept saying that to him. But because my adrenaline was just constantly on, just constantly on.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, there's something really, really wrong now. I don't feel, I don't feel well at all. It's now an emergency. I need to go to the doctor. I need to go to A&E. Went to
Right.
A&E multiple times. Um, and um, my main symptoms at that point were I was reacting to pretty much all foods. Um, so I I was reacting to all foods. I felt very breathless. I had heartburn. I had pain after eating. My fainting was coming back, rapid heart rates, and I had low blood pressure. Um, that actually got to 88 over 36, which is
Wow.
lowest recording. So if anyone's worried about low blood pressure, I'm still here. Um, yeah, so and
Yeah, that's
then
low.
it's so and it was just a whole barrage. I felt like it was a whole barrage of symptoms at that point.
Okay. So what was your turning point? When did you, I guess, hit the roadblock with the medical system as I'm not getting answers, I'm not getting cures? And when did you find out about this whole mind-body concept that it was likely tied to stress, emotions, trauma, chaos? And like, what was your journey into that world like? And when did that happen? And what did you start figuring out?
Okay, so obviously I took a few trips to A&E that was met with absolute, you know, kind of looked at me like I was crazy, kept getting turned away. I booked in lots of GP appointments, and kind of, um, I just kept getting the same message. You need to be on anti-anxiety medication. You're depressed. We need to treat this with this. I just don't think it's anything else, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to give credit to them because you know, in a way, they were right, you know, that it was serious anxiety, fight or flight, trauma, not feeling safe in my body. To be honest, I guess they were trying to say, we can't really help you, it's
Well, they
this.
basically said we don't have a medical solution for you,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is accurate.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get anywhere with this. So I very desperately, like everyone, all of your videos, I've seen a pattern with us where we become like keyboard warriors and we go on Google and try and look up all of our symptoms and try and figure it out ourselves. And I did the whole thing, joining the Facebook groups, which was an absolute nightmare and not what I should have
Yeah.
been doing.
Yeah. Bad neighborhoods.
Yeah, bad neighborhood, definitely. And one in particular was an oxalate group.
Hmm.
And I was told to get rid of all of those from my diet and high histamine foods. So I got rid of everything. And I had a naturopath that told me that I had mold um, problems and that I needed to detox. Um, I tried many things in that time. I actually think she probably scared me the most. She said, I have this, and this, and this. You need to take this supplement, and I was reacting to everything at the time, so I couldn't tolerate anything.
Sure.
Um, and that I had low B12 and all of this stuff, which just in turn just made everything worse. I was measuring all of my food. I got so tunnel vision about everything. Everything had to be,
Perfect.
it can't be over a cup. It can't be this, that food can't touch that food. And, it
Hmm.
got very intense.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of a testament to how terrified I was. I was scared.
And
Um,
misinformed from
yeah,
all of the fear that was out in the world as far
yeah,
as what you should do, what you can't do. Don't do this, don't do that. Do this, but not that.
yeah.
And so, with all of that information clouding your judgment, you just become so hyper fixated on trying to repair yourself perfectly
Yeah.
and trying to do it, by the milligram and, under a microscope. And that's not where
Absolutely.
health comes from.
Yeah. And I think that's why I found your content so refreshing. I'll go back to what we were talking about. I
That's
won't
okay.
jump too much,
That's
but
all right.
that's
Take
why
your
I found
time.
your content so refreshing. Um, you know, in amongst the chaos that can be the internet sometimes, it's so overwhelming. Your videos were just that calm, reassuring voice that wasn't really asking me to do much. It was just simplifying things so much that
Mhm.
really gave me a sense of calm. And I was like, I think I'm in the right place now. I'm going to explore this.
Awesome.
But I did so many things, cranial sacral therapy. I had a healer that told me that I had like these demons that I needed to, get rid of, like all this
Oh,
stuff.
now it becomes
It
that.
was a
Okay.
whole other thing. I did lymphatic drainage, liquids that had been sort of exposed to different frequencies. Um, I was doing visualizations, fascia release exercises, cold showers, which honestly were horrendous and they made me feel awful. So I stopped those pretty quick. Um, and no sugar. This is probably one of the maddest things I did, but when I was told that I had to detox from mold, I lived in a tent for a few weeks because I
I
was so
know
scared.
people who do that. I know people who went through 5 houses in places to live inside of a year. So you are not mad. You
Yeah,
are just trying to resolve these wild and woolly symptoms. So
yeah,
no judgment at all.
yeah, yeah. It was a scary time. And I think anyone who feels like that would
Anything.
do
They
the
do
same.
virtually anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I exhausted the medical world and then exhausted all these other things, hundreds of
All
those.
of the various alternative healing
Yeah,
modalities and
tapping, journaling, and I did a couple of courses, like the Gupta program and Primal Trust,
Mhm.
which kind of gave me an overview of what I was dealing with. But the information was unbelievable, and what I had to do each day was just I was like, this can't be right. Like, this is just so intense. So, I did try it, did my best, obviously. But I just knew deep down, I was like, I just can't do this for the rest of my life. I just don't feel this is the way. And so I found you through, um, what was her name? Angie.
Yeah.
You interviewed, I found
Angela Hep. Yeah.
yeah, because I was already following her because she had POTS and
Mhm.
MCAS and things that I'd been dealing with. And she she had a video of yours and I watched it on her stories and I just thought, wow, this is so refreshing and calming. So I just watched one every single day. And I don't watch them so much anymore, but I like checking in, it's just
Sure.
nice to see the success stories that keep coming out of this work that
Hmm.
you're doing. Um, and I just I kind of stopped the noise of everything else, and I just said, this is the one thing I'm going to concentrate on. I'm just going to do this. And yeah, and it was so freeing, even though I felt scared still. It was so freeing to let go of all that other stuff and just be
Hmm.
like,
Yeah, when you
uh,
have 42 protocols that you need to do every single day, and if you don't do them perfectly or every day, you're not going to make any progress. It's terrifying. And the
yeah,
only thing your brain can conclude is Maddie has a really big problem. Look at all the stuff she's trying to do to fix herself.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was just telling myself it's still not safe, still not safe. Um, and then uh, I basically made the decision. I think this is the thing that helped me the most was, right, okay, say, which is not the truth, obviously, but I said to myself, say if this is going to be how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life, we might as well just try and get out there, just get back out into normal life, start doing normal things. I started to see my friends more. I actually did something that felt quite really frightening for me, but I went on a dating app and I
Oh.
went on some dates, and I was like, even if I go and faint, even if I go and I can't eat anything on the menu and I turn up and just drink water, I'm just gonna do it, you know? And it brought me, it just, the first couple of dates were really awkward and I was not myself and I was super nervous, super anxious. I think I left early on the second one and they probably thought I was a bit odd.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, but the main message of that is just that is what accelerated my healing the most, like going out and doing my own shopping, even if I'm doing it alone. If something happens, someone will help me, and I
Hmm.
just got back out into life
Yeah.
and
And
very, very, bravely started eating normal things. Even if I got a reaction,
yeah.
um, I kept eating it and telling myself this was safe to do. Um,
Hmm.
and to be honest, I kind of thought everything that I'd been through, with my symptoms, I was like, if I got through that, I can kind of, I can get through this, even if it, you know, if I eat this green bean, and it gives me a symptom, I'm sure I'm going to live past it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like to say you've got a 100% track record of making it through every single bad day.
Yeah.
And so I'll make it through today too. So the other
Yeah.
thing I'll just point out for the audience and for you is when you start going out and doing normal things, the brain's paying attention and says, Maddie's doing normal stuff. I guess she's not in dire straits anymore. I guess she's better than we thought.
Mm,
And the brain notices that's a message of safety. Even going out, even being symptomatic, even risking passing out, or, the brain just notices you're doing normal stuff. And that's a good thing. And that's a positive step. So I just wanted to point that out.
definitely. Definitely. And then my symptoms just kind of started to drop off. I know that lots of
Awesome.
people had quite quick turnarounds. There, lots of people talk about kind of a couple of weeks. Mine was a little bit longer, but
Some
not
people
that
take
it's,
years as well.
yeah,
So there is no
exactly.
rule of thumb.
No. But actually, I think that was quite good. It was quite good because it gave me time to kind of process a lot of what I've been through, actually, and be gentle with myself and not
Mhm.
force anything too much, was what I had been doing, and it made me worse. So,
Sure.
uh, yeah, um, it was good, and I think, like everyone says, the symptoms that I found the most annoying were the last to leave. And what's so interesting is that, uh, can I just say I am back to work full, I'm a cleaner, so I'm on my
Okay.
feet all the time.
Hmm.
It's a very like active job, and I sometimes do that. 7 to 8 hours a day. Like I just want to give people like I, I just
You can
wish,
go from fainting to working hard physical labor.
yeah, exactly. Um, and I just didn't think that that was possible. And if, you know, if I could go back and show myself that being a possibility, um, you know, there's so much hope there. I just want to say for anyone going through this, however bad you think it is, there is always hope. There is always an opportunity for things to change,
Mhm.
like in such a drastic way. Um, and I'm still like, I feel mega grateful. I feel so grateful. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah.
do you feel pretty well prepared for life? Should you have any ups or downs with stress, life, chaos, life pressures, physical symptoms? Do you feel like you're really well prepared at this point to know how to handle it?
Yeah, and it's been fascinating lately, to be honest, because when I was talking about my dating experience, I actually met someone, and I have to give credit to him because he was such a lovely, gentle person and helped me through quite a
Mhm.
few things. And uh, but we decided to part ways recently. So that was obviously a big life change,
Mhm.
again, starting again. I'm 34. And, the thought of starting again was very daunting and quite scary. And,
Of course.
I wanted a family and things like that. So, um, and it was interesting because my first meal I had back with mum and dad, I started eating, and then I got this sensation, and I was like, "Oh, that's that's familiar," that old friend.
Recognize. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I started calling them in my head, like, oh, like more like friends, like little messengers, rather
Mhm.
than big scary symptoms. Um, and yeah, it happened, and I kind of just, I just said, this is totally safe. This is safe. Although it feels scary, it is totally safe and it will pass. And the more you relax into it and reassure yourself, the quicker it leaves. And it did not take long. It just, it just didn't, just left really.
So how are you feeling these days?
Yeah, I feel really positive about the future. Obviously, this is life stuff that you can't
Mhm.
avoid. Life is always going to happen to you. It's always going to, you know,
Yeah, we don't need life to be perfect.
no,
You don't.
exactly.
We can have all sorts of lifey life stuff going on, but we don't have to hurt or be symptomatic.
No, absolutely. And it's just knowing how to, when those things come up, to show yourself care, love, and reassurance
Yeah,
when those things come up, you know.
accurate knowledge. This is safe. It's uncomfortable, but not unsafe.
Absolutely. Uh,
So what else would you like to share? This was great. Um, any words of advice to anybody who's either just coming into a set of symptoms or is in the middle of it? I know you've mentioned about the hope, but any other words of advice that might help shortcut people to get to the finish line a little bit quicker?
I think for people who are in the thick of it, um, can I just say, like, you're so brave, you're so strong. You you know, I just have a lot of love for you and know how hard that period of my life was. But my advice to you would be when it feels so huge and all consuming, to try and just deal with that day, like to not think this is going to be my forever. This is,
Correct.
I'm never going to not feel this way. And just to keep watching these success stories as well when you're in the thick of it. And the only thing you can do is look at your phone or lay in bed, just watch these success stories because that just confirmed to me, even if my symptoms were different to other people's,
Mhm.
they were told their things were incurable and you know, they're
They're better.
coming out of this like in an amazing way. And that just gave me so much hope. And to also, I think we're told a lot to, we're told a lot to rest and like to stay, you know, stay in bed, stay warm, stay cozy, stay, you know, stay like that. And I think just even if it's just one thing a day, to just push yourself to do something that you feel you might not be able to do, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and to just try it, you know, even if it's going to the shops or having a shower, getting yourself dressed, or do you know what I mean?
I absolutely do because avoiding life doesn't make anything go away. It just convinces the brain further that the outside life stuff is dangerous. So avoidance just makes your world smaller.
Yeah.
So do what you can. I'm not saying go out and go crazy, but yeah, it's a great recommendation. Start by just doing one thing that you're a little bit nervous about, but don't look at a list of triggers and things you're avoiding as something to keep avoiding. Look at it as a list of things you're going to overcome by chipping away at it and doing a little bit, each day. And your brain will notice. Look at Maddie. She's doing good stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot, I wanted to say this one thing, that when I was in the thick of it and I was reacting to foods, one thing that really helped me was when I was reacting, I would put my headphones on and dance. And so I was associating the feeling with a positive, like it kind of
Love it.
like changed that around.
Mhm.
And even if I wasn't able to stand up, I kind of danced in my chair and I put like my favorite song on while I was eating. And that really helped me kind of shake out of that mindset. Um,
Yeah, it was basically a pattern shift to go, all right, symptomatic,
yeah,
let's dance, and
yeah,
dancing, smiling sends a message of safety. It's all
yeah.
about safety. And that was your way of converting from food fear and symptoms to I'm actually okay. Because if I weren't okay, there's no way I'd be sitting here dancing.
Absolutely. And like when I was getting like seated to standing, which was a bit of an issue for me with the fainting, I would try and do like a funny walk. It sounds sorry. It sounds so silly, but I would try and do a funny walk like when I got up, or like dance when I was getting up. And it honestly, that really helped. Like just shifting, oh my gosh, this is awful, to something a bit more positive.
So when you were going from seated to standing to try to teach your brain that I can stand without passing out, you
Yeah.
threw a little
Yeah.
dance in there. I love
Yeah.
it. No, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I
Exactly.
was doing two words. I'm good, and I would go. Just a subtle message to myself that says I'm good, and then I would do something that would previously hurt. In my case, I had pain, but I love the fact that you in injected play
That's it. Absolutely.
into
Yeah.
well, I got to get up, so I may as well get up and do a little shimmy shake and hear a little beat in my head and have some fun with this because that conveys I'm actually okay. Look at me go. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. That really fast forwarded things for me, you know. That was good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So unless you've got anything else, you've covered a lot here, a lot of great stories of where you were, how things went. Um, but I'm thrilled to see you come out the other side, doing so well, smiling here for the camera and encouraging people not to lose hope. That is so powerful. Um, and you had a lot of good insights as to how you learned to deal with this stuff. And so, what was the total journey from the time you really started feeling unwell in your 20s to now? You said you're 34, so about 10 years?
Yeah. And I had good moments in between, but I think the start of 2004 was my worst bit.
Hmm.
And so it's taken sort of from then to, a few months ago that I was,
Okay.
and I had really good moments in between that, in the healing process.
Right.
Really,
Okay.
so yeah.
Did you frame that as I'm in remission, or did you understand what was going on and you kind of viewed it as I'm feeling safer and uh-oh, things got chaotic again, danger came along? Or were you still in the mindset of I'm sick and it must be in remission and then I got sick again? Where was your take on that?
I
I'm
think,
sure during the 10 years when you would feel good, that was probably likely. But once you really started to understand the mind body, the perceived danger aspect, I imagine you dropped the word remission and it was more like, no, I'm feeling safe.
yeah, I mean, so when I first started watching your videos, I think there was a lot of doubt still in my head, but I
Mhm.
made the decision that this was the way. But I think I was like, there must have been something that they missed, or they must, like still that chatter. And that took a while to leave. It did take a little while to leave.
Right.
But I think when when the penny dropped about the pattern of my symptoms, that the way they behaved, I was like, I cannot deny what's going on anymore.
Yeah.
This is it, and I will get better. I've had
Awesome.
a great day. If I have a bad day tomorrow, it means that I'm able to have a great day. So I'm able to get well.
Yeah. A lot of people will have a great day and then the next day they may struggle a little bit more. And then they're like, it's very easy to fall into fear and despair again and go, I thought I had it and now I'm having a horrible day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were just feeling great yesterday. Let's not forget that. That's what's possible. So let's remind ourselves in our overprotective brain that we just had a great day yesterday and we can get back to that as soon as we settle our fears with clarity, calm, reassurance, trust, not panicking, being less bothered by the symptoms. And you've done an amazing job implementing and you got your life back, which is awesome.
Thank you.
And
I
as
couldn't
far
have done
as
it.
being uncertain about what you want to do in life, don't choose to be the sick person. That's not a great career choice. But you were like, yeah, I'm in my 20s. I don't know what my direction is. Yeah,
Yeah,
so what? Welcome. I've
exactly.
had 5 career changes in my life, and I've only really gotten into my stride of doing this stuff in my 50s. So we don't have to have it all figured out.
Absolutely.
Focus on today. What do I want to do today? And that's not just symptom wise, that's just like life. Let me stay present. And so, really
Uh,
proud of you. You did great.
Thank you. And you're doing amazing work. It is awesome. It's so fascinating and just, yeah, it's very eye-opening. And I'm sure so many more people are going to benefit from it. And that's why I'm here. I'm doing
Well,
my
I'm sure the people watching. So, would you classify your success story as mostly POTS with 42 other things surrounding that?
Yeah, I would say mostly pots. I think I think I feel I developed a bit of MCAS at one stage, with the food, but it
Mhm.
was never properly diagnosed. But I was having all the symptoms of MCAS,
Okay.
with that label.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, listen, this was fantastic. I appreciate you, Maddie. If there's ever anything I can do for you, you know where to find me. Um, but this should be out probably within the next few days. So keep an eye on Facebook or YouTube if you'd like to read through some of the comments or maybe even comment back. You're welcome
Yeah,
to do that, or you could lay low and just let it post and help people. But it should be out on the YouTube and Facebook within the next few days, I would think. So,
great. I'm very happy to answer questions. Yeah.
all right. I appreciate it. Thanks again, Maddie. And again, hit me up if you need anything. And otherwise, thank you and say goodbye to everybody.
Bye. Thank
So
you.
long.